Recently, I've been wondering what actually differentiates the brainy student from the average student. Why do some students perform poorly and yet some have distinction in tests and exams? Is it because they don't read? But actually, they do read. So what's wrong? Then I found out something really big. If you are watching my video for the first time, I'm Ifedapor by name and I'm currently a second year medical student. I want you to stick to the end of this video because I'll be revealing some important secrets. Do you want to know what I found out about the brainy or the brilliant students? Before I go into that, there are some common mistakes average students make and they don't even realize it. They've been wasting at least 70% of their time in useless study. Average students learn how to study the right way when it's too late and could have saved themselves years of frustration. They spend hours trying to absorb information into their brain, but their brain doesn't even retain anything. And do you know the worst part? They don't even realize it's happening. The first mistake average students make, and which they don't realize, is passively rereading a text over and over again. Most students think highlighting a material or rereading notes will make them remember. But the truth is that rereading a material just have a retention rate of only 10%. That means if you read a chapter or a textbook today, by next week you'll forget at least 90% of it. Rereading a material over and over again might feel productive. Why? Because your brain actually recognizes those words on the page. But understanding is way different from recognition. You can't expect to be good at football by watching a football clip over and over again. Instead, you just get familiar with the style of play. Rereading just makes you familiar with the words in the page. You might actually not understand it. The second mistake most average students make is last minute cramming or last minute reading. To be honest, every student must have read last minute or crammed for a test at some point. Staying up all night, forcing a lot of information into our brain, drinking energy drinks just to avoid sleep. But cramming doesn't work long term. Sure, you might remember some of it for the text the next day, but after a few days, everything is gone. Why? Your brain tends to keep relevant information and throws away crammed information like waste because it knows you don't really need it. You are just forcing it without any purpose for it to be stored. The third mistake most average students make is studying passively. This is another terrible mistake as most students just read, watch videos, listen to lectures without actually engaging with the information. Think of this. Can you learn how to drive a car by only reading a book? No, it's not possible. The person would have a crash. When it comes to study, most students do exactly the same thing. They just read a textbook, watch a video and assume they've already learned it. Remember I said earlier that I'll tell you what I found out about the brainy students. These mistakes I mentioned point out what the brainy students always do. Studying isn't about how much time you spend, it's about how much information you actually retain. The difference between the average student and the brainy student is actually how they study. The first secret is that brainy students value retention over consumption. Instead of just absorbing and consuming information, you have to focus on the way it actually sticks. The truth to this secret is that students that actually master the material will outperform you in the long run, whether in class, university, or even in careers. Stop treating studying like it's a repetition. Real learning actually comes with challenging your brain, retrieving information, making connection with old and new information. This is how retention always bests consumption. Without wasting much of our time, how can we unlock this secret? When you actively engage with the information you are studying, retention is boosted. If you really want to remember everything you study, stop rereading and start actively recalling. Teach and apply everything you read. The first step is active recall. I've made videos on this technique. You can check it out. If you want to remember more of what you study, always practice this. If you can't recall and explain something in simple terms, then you don't understand it. If you struggle to recall an information, go back and relearn the parts you can't remember. To be able to recall effectively, always simplify and refine your explanations to understand it clearly. Always try to teach what you learn. Most brilliant students do this as a way of retaining information. The more you teach, the more your brain is forced to organize those information, making it easier to recall. The second step is to constantly apply the information. Now, how do you apply the information? You can do this by engaging in testing practice, past question, and quiz. Brilliant students don't study more, they test themselves more. Brainy students don't study more, they test themselves more. Instead of just rereading, constantly test yourself with quiz, brainstorm sessions. The third step is to constantly review using the spaced repetition technique. I've talked about this technique in another video, so you can check it out. As humans, we tend to forget 50% of what we read in 1 hour, so that's why cramming information doesn't really help. Fortunately, the brilliant students use the spaced repetition technique to enable them to remember much more of what they read. So how does this work? Always spread out your review plan. Day 1, learn the material. Day 3, review. And day 7, test yourself on what you've learned. The last step to make retention effective is sticking to a study routine. Discipline will save you a lot of stress, so avoid procrastination. Create a study plan and fix a timeline to it. Make your study routine consistent, and you can try out the Pomodoro technique. Now, what does this mean? It means that you study for 25 minutes, then take 5-minute break. You can repeat this like 5 times before you take a longer break. Consistency will save you a lot. Little daily effort is worth more than last-minute study. If you found this video very helpful, stay tuned by subscribing. And remember, it's not about studying hard, it's about studying smart.